Okay, this was fascinating. I mean, this is so interesting. So the Founders Fund is basically this fund where how can I say this? So the Founders Fund is a fund where Peter Thiel, who's a part of the PayPal Mafia, I'll put my other PayPal Mafia videos in the description box. But he basically paid a whole bunch of people, not a whole bunch of people, he was giving money to like high school students so that they would like drop out of college and then just build startups to like better the economy. To a large extent, this did work, and he talked again. He gave a talk a couple of years ago about how it's probably not that important for this many people to go to college. And then he kind of talked about this other book that he wrote, which is like the diversity myth. And it kind of feels like I haven't read the book. I don't feel like I need to read the book. Like, just because I feel like in Silicon Valley, nobody's able to see beyond race. Like, everybody's really stuck at race because they don't understand it basically boils down to like they don't understand geopolitics and that like Africa is a continent and like not all people from Africa are black and then like there are black people all over the world who are not African. So then you have to get into this like conversation about blackness, but then you could just come back to like basically like African American history, which would explain all of the shit around like the Americanized racial caste system, colorized equitable distribution of things and like white supremacy. But we've had that conversation like that they don't understand that, right? Like all they can talk about is like immigration and then like diversity of thought, but you can't really have a serious diversity of thought when like you are like you're just so unaware of like first of all American history and we are in America, and then like world history when you have people from all over the world who are making decisions about robots who are impacting everybody. Not the point though. So to continue going, I'm just gonna basically read off the comments that I made on this video. You should go watch the video for yourself. The first one. Peter makes the most important point here for me. This is like at 28 minutes in. For the resume building students who spend their entire adolescent years preparing to enter elite universities and then develop no interest or hobbies, this is probably not good. I'm familiar with these students because even as a public school student, that is, I grew up around, at, like who I grew up around, and at some point you make a decision that you don't want to be one of them. I made a few videos about Kerry Washington because this was her path, and then I posted like the Kerry Washington video. Then, like at 33 minutes in, he says something again, where he was like making fun of like abortion Beckies, which is kind of funny because Brett Cooper talks about them too. He's basically talking about me, people like me, who they're just women who sit in apartments and abort babies. That's what we do. That's like our lifestyle. Joyce, you can feel how you feel about it. I'm sorry. A lot of us don't want to be strapped into poverty with losers, and that's just how it is. So he made a joke. He said, "Did he just say that the woman who wants a suburban house in Reno would be forced to carry a baby to term?" He was basically making fun of like the girls who live in San Francisco and these rat infested apartments that he would pay a fuck ton of money, but they could just move to Reno and live a suburban life if they wanted that. Okay, so then at 53 minutes again, he started making, they were talking about like economics and basically China. And now everybody's talking about China now, even though I've been talking about China for like 10 years, mostly because, like I said before, the most important developments that are happening in this century have to do with China and Africa because they're the most populous. And there's not another issue. You can try to talk about India, but to be honest, like India just doesn't matter simply because, like, in order for India to have justice, India is going to have to get their justice from the UK and like Euro colonial powers who've taken their shit. And that just has not like Europe is kind of on the decline. So it's like you're almost stealing from an empty pot, and then India just has nothing to do with America, really. It's just not even similar. So, like, they could go collect their coins from Europe if they want, because, yeah, like, Euro colonialism is a whole thing in India. I understand part of the history, not all of it. But, like, when we're talking about black Americans specifically, that has to do with America and the fact that they were, like, taken over here and all the things that happened in America. And black Americans probably will get justice for that, which still has nothing to do with India. Anyway, okay, so then he's like, they have Gigi Pong thought, Gigi Ping or something. I don't know, whoever that like Chinese leader is, and he says, "I'll take wokeness over that anyway, any day." Oh my God, my spelling was so bad. I wrote this while I was on the treadmill. I have many questions about, but as a person who invested heavily in Mandarin immersion and grew up studying Japanese Buddhism, I'm confused. Um, yeah, I don't know. He was talking about Gigi Ping and then wokeness and how like basically like wokeness. They're basically talking about how like wokeness is a religion. I do kind of think that wokeness is a religion. Like I said, there's a Gen Z is very interesting because they look at history and the world in a way that we kind of like never have. As in like they are looking at they actually have a well-rounded ideology of like all the history that's happened in the past and kind of the things that they see happening in real time. So they like have real examples of like real people in the real world who have experienced like injustice, and they know firsthand how they've either overcome that injustice or how they're still suffering from it now. And because these are like therapy students, they're like, we aren't tolerating this, we don't want to go through this, and they're actually making change and making decisions and really radically changing the world by doing that. I kind of respect it. Like, but then wokeness is like really extreme because we have like all these like gender pronouns. Also, this is like a sexless generation. They are for sure not really gonna have any kids. Like it's just it's kind of like it's a lot. Like it's a lot. Like I don't really have much to say, but it's a lot. Anyway, so then my last point on this, and I'll just put the description in the video in the box. Like you should watch this conversation. I said my biggest takeaway here is the English PhD after robots take her job. What will she do? Where will she work? He gives this example of this girl who has a PhD in English and how like she's working as a barista now, but when the robots come and take her job, where is she gonna work? And he's like, this is why those people aren't having children. And I said, this is why the like people like her aren't having children. They're too afraid of poverty, which we are familiar with from the exploitation of Black American or the exploration of Black American poverty documentaries. I think many creatives fighting for socialism, like Fab Socialism and Khadija Mumboe, um, make great points about equity. And yes, AI is here, and yeah, it's changing everything. But the reason the American economy is not making strides in technology and innovation as a country is because of the division. The country is mostly white today, but not by much, and all products and services were built with the white consumer in mind, and everyone else has been figuring out how to get by. But as the census data changes and there are more poor people of color who are Americans, the products and services need to improve their quality of life as well. And right now, they just aren't really doing that. If we have designed a society where every family is raising their children to simply go to college and stick to their tribal customs, which is what is happening, we are basically all just walking flags of the places we immigrated from. This is why I can start making content about being Ethiopian, and then The Weeknd puts his Ethiopian name in his Instagram bio, and Drake is on tour shouting about Habesha girls. Like, tribalism is real, and American capitalism is not building products for Americans. I don't understand why Peter won't have some incubation hub for like three poor kids of color for a year to just listen to all of their problems that they spill. I've been trying to amplify these stories for a while, but people keep labeling me as a diversity hire, even though I grew up upper middle class with many family members in Hollywood. Like, I'm not the kid from the Chicago projects, but the kids like Edelyn Bobe exist, and they're trying desperately to fix society, but it seems like no one cares. Um, I've written about this. I can put like my blog in the description box, but this is another reason why I feel like it's just really important for me to exist. I'll make another video because actually Lillian Tesegi made a video today, and there's some points in her video that I do want to like talk about very quickly. Actually, maybe we can record this right after this, but yeah, maybe go watch the video for yourself. I wonder what you think.